Good morning, everyone. My name's Sandra, and I'm shielding at home here, as the government would say. It's quite isolating, but I think most people understand it now about social distancing and isolation. So I'm not very good at the technology, mind you, but I will do my best to do this. But today I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me. Now, I looked up the word story and it gave me various definitions. It said a story can be a fairy tale, it can be a history of something, it can be something that everybody's talking about and it might not be true. It can be a front page story, which is designed to shock you and want you to buy the paper. But the definition that I saw that I liked most was, it defined it as a story is a spoken or written account of something real that happened. So that's the one that I like. So I'm going to tell you the story of something real that happened to me. But it's not really about me. It's more about a loving and compassionate God and what God has done for me. But it all started, I used to walk by the river most days because I could find some peace and comfort there. And the water trickling down the river, or roaring down the river as it was on some days, it was just such a calming place to be. But on one particular day I went down and I was very distressed this particular day. And I don't know whether you know the expression drowning in despair. Well, I was drowning in despair this particular day. And I clearly remember the words that I cried out. And I said to God, God, if you are there, I really, really need you. There is nothing on this earth and there is no one can help me. Now, I didn't realise it at the time, but that was the beginning of my relationship with God. So I continued to walk down the river, by the river, and I would ask God things and I would debate with God. In fact, I think I argued with God and sometimes I railed against it. But I did talk a lot to God in those first few weeks. And several weeks later, God gave me a very personal experience and showed me who he actually was. And I would have to say that he delivered me. And most important of all, he delivered me from my sin and shame, and I was born again. I was born again. And that was an amazing experience for me, and it happened quietly between the Lord and myself. Now, I continued on my journey, and it wasn't an easy journey. If you read Psalm 116, the first verse says, I love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. And that's exactly what happened to me. But I continued anyway to take walks by the river, and I found myself one day singing Psalm 23. It's a very, 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 very famous psalm. And I don't know, you probably know the verse which says, he leadeth me beside still waters, he restoreth my soul. And that's when I began to realise what God was actually doing in my life. He was and still is restoring my soul. I've continued with my life with the Lord and have learned so much about his goodness, his faithfulness, and his mercy, and it never ceases to amaze me. I could list many more attributes of God, our Creator. But to me, God is so real in my life. He continues to teach me daily. He provides for me. He guides me. And I have found peace with God, and I have found peace in my life. So I'm sure you're wondering what my life is like now. Well, my life now is pretty ordinary, I would say. It has its ups and downs. It has its difficulties. I'm still anxious at times about things. I still worry about things. But I have that peace that passeth all understanding. I have peace with God. But I don't think I live an ordinary life anymore. You see, I think I live an extraordinary life because I belong to an extraordinary God. Now, ordinary life today has changed so much for so many people, hasn't it? People are finding themselves out of work. People are finding themselves very anxious, very afraid. Their lives have been turned upside down. Many people actually have discovered strength that they didn't even know they had. So the story of the coronavirus, which is a story, a written account of something real that has happened, will go down in the history books. It will be told by generation after generation, and our children and grandchildren, and we will always remember it. The Bible tells a story, a history of God, our Creator, and who sent his Son to die for us on the cross. It tells us all about forgiveness. It tells us how we can be changed and reconciled with God, and how we can live our lives for God in our future, whatever our background is, whatever difficulties we may be facing at the minute, and however colourful a life we've had. So my story, the story I've just told you, is a personal account of something real that happened to me, of how I met God many, many years ago. It is a spoken account of how I met God. And I want you to know how grateful I am to God for coming into my life. So if you want to know God, I don't know your circumstances, but if you want to know God, it's really quite simple. You just talk to someone, maybe, who knows God well, or you can reach out like I did. You can cry out to God, and God will be there listening, because he knows you and he knows your every need, and he waits for you to come to him. I hope you have a lovely day today. Even if you're at home, I hope it's filled with happiness today, and I hope it's filled with peace. Thank you for listening. Bye.